NUPL has finally concluded, and of course, that means you get a little bit of tournament coverage over it. Gonna go over the SS games, not the SS, god no, the SV games from this last week of tournament games. It's gonna be a lot of fun. You're gonna see Mr. Bronzong appear a couple times, and he does pretty alright, I would say. Of course, before we get too far into it, a little reminder, if you do enjoy daily competitive content, you just like Pokemon, you want to support someone, just trying to help out their community, then definitely subscribe if you're not already subscribed. Leave a like if you already are subscribed. Turn on that bell, by the way. Make sure you don't miss a video. It's very smart. Now, game 1, Django versus GXC. Now, if you pay attention to what I say in videos or on the forum, if you're ever keeping up with the forum. Actually, I don't even know that was in the forum. I think I was in the NU Discord, regardless. I did. You'll know the result of this game, but TLDR of this is I wumped Django in tests a little bit, and then he ended up using this team instead of the original when he was prepping. And this is where I got the inspiration to use the Double Dance Bronzong for the video we did a little bit ago. And very cool thing about this set is when you look at GXC's team here, there's not really a lot that beats it down when it gets the Iron Defense up. It's not like it's the simplest game to win, right? You got Double Dark, you got the threat of a Florgus tricking, you've got Slowbro that's just going to be annoying, it's got status it can threaten you with, and Talonflame could potentially have Will-O-Wisp to bother you, it could be Flare Blitz and just at least not be setup fodder. There's a couple of ways it could go poorly. However, you've got your own Florgus, you have your own throw trick. Potentially that nets you an opportunity to set up, and the thing is, when Bronzong gets enough Iron Defense boosts, you're really not worried that much about knockoff from either of these. Like, it just truly doesn't matter. So, as we start this game off, we see a Slowbro led with here, a Florgus over here, and Django just immediately tricks. Django literally saying here, I don't care if you stay in, I like getting a trick off on Slowbro. I don't care if you go Registeel. I like getting a trick off on Reggie. And obviously, he loves a trick. So what this does, it gives him Bronzong literally on turn 2. And GXC, I think, also then overestimates the threat of Will-O-Wisp here. Because my assumption is he expected Django just to switch here, not wanting to let Zong get burned. Flare Blitz threat is kind of whatever here. I mean, it's a Talonflame hitting something at +2 defense. I know it's super effective, but it's a again, that's the emphasis. It's a Talonflame. Very weak, very bad Pokemon. And so, U-turn comes out instead, not getting the switch he wanted. And the Bronzong decides, you know what? I like boosting so much at first turn, let me do it again. Getting a very nice calm mind, entering a Zen state after months of meditation. And it doesn't get much better for GXC here. If you're a GXC super fan, I am sorry to say, it is a little rough. So Bronzong decides, alright, I boosted enough. I don't need to mess around with Cacturn. Don't want it sword stance it up, don't want it not critting a million times through or anything. It's just not worth it. As he now enters with Florgus, we see it as Calm Mind lefties. And this is going to be something Zong has to actually boost up further against. Because as you saw, that's first stored power. I mean, at the end of the day, look, it's Bronzong. It's not exactly the most offensively inclined Pokemon. So we're going to see him boost up alongside this Florgus here. And now stored power, like, yeah. Now, the big thing, of course, that may go unnoticed here is this Bronzong is not getting paralyzed at all. I don't even know why GXC bothered, given this is kind of insane luck to never get hit by the yellow color. And, of course, GXC's playing towards that. He finally gets a paralysis here, which means he can at least get off a little Moonblast. If he had gotten a crit, it would have killed the Bronzong. It would be really good. He got another para there. He got a special attack drop. I mean, that's nice. Unfortunately, it's not going to save his Florgus. It kind of will, but it's not going to save it all the way. Because at the end of the day, man, Bronzong's going to keep hitting you. And Florg now, I mean, do you want to keep playing the game of Synthesis on Paras? You want to risk a crit? You want to risk more of those too? You want to risk those higher rolls? So he does decide, you know what? Yes, Robbie, I'd love to risk a crit. Loved it so much I even let him crit me. Also, that's like a really... never mind. I was going to say it's a really high roll, but I forgot the boosting or the defense. Ignore me. And now Talon comes out. That crit U-turn honestly might have mattered. I'm gonna just be throwing y'all. This is a Talonflame. It's not exactly known for doing damage, and so maybe this U-turn actually is why Flare Blitz ended up killing. Regardless, Bronzong just smoked half this man's team. Also, Ice Punch Registeel. I'm pretty sure I mentioned this was a thing in a video I did recently with Engineer. Yeah. Yeah, so I remember the idea GXC said was, because I think he commented about it, it's like Ice Punch plus EQ or Body Press, I forget which. He's like, yeah, this is the only combo on a Pokemon in NU, or at least on Registeel, that prevents you from being Oricorio Pom Pom food. Which, I'm gonna be honest, I mean, it's a cool idea. I'm sure if it lets you not lose to Demon Bird, hey, good. So, you may think this game's over. It's actually not. GXC, you're about to watch some of the most surgical gameplay imaginable. And it's honestly pretty cool to see. So, you're going to see basically what I'm saying here. These mons are going to have their limits pushed. Now, the bro here just throwing out some Scald's Bonnet is always going to be a safe switch in because it is running the Covert Cloak. So you don't have to even care about a burn. And he ends up staying in here to T-Wave because he knows Brute Bonnet can't one-shot the Slowbro from this range. So he's happy to go for paralysis. Obviously, any extra status will help. Now, at this range, he must believe that he dies. So Talonflame now comes out. He also lets him fish for a burn because he knows a crunch is very likely here. Unfortunately for GXC, no burn to be had, but it doesn't really end up mattering that much because you get your region on bro. Talonflame can try and get a roost off later as well. It's all smooth sailing. And Chip on Pert is going to be integral as well. He hopes to try to win this, because Crocodile is going to be one of his main methods of actually, like, doing anything. So, Chip on Pert, that's one of the biggest roadblocks. You know, you potentially have Gunk Shot anyway for Bonnet, so you don't really care. And with Talonflame, it's kind of just a matter of maybe you could try to force it out earlier, try and KO it, but Crocodile comes in here on the predicted crunch. Does give you the opportunity to go for your Terra Poison here. Baba boo, baba bang. Look at that Gunk Shot. Woo! Now, maybe going for bulk would have been a little better, but I do think it would have just let something else get sacked. So, better long-term for Jigsy to just take all that chip on Bonnet. You potentially can now just kill it with your Slowbro, depending on if he wants to use it as a sack, or maybe he'll play with the Croak as the switch in next. You still gotta figure that much out, but Slowbro gonna be able to slack, and this is what I meant by Talonflame's gonna be fine, even though it took all that damage earlier. Because it can come out now versus Florges and just stuff. This. First, he will defog though. Because again, testing the limits of all these Pokemon helps to not have to deal with rocks. So I actually lied to y'all. He doesn't even roost. He just U-turns, brings out Mr. Croc. And obviously Florges is forced out here, so you're going to see a sack of Pert or Brute Bonnet here always. Bonnet obviously ends up being the better sack because it's at 6 freaking percent. A little unfortunate miss there. GXC though does end up revealing his bulk up. As Django goes for the synthesis, though, this is actually pretty threatening. Because, yeah, nothing's KOing this in one. Now, he does end up respecting the threat of Willow here. Guy like me would have stayed and lost the entire game. That's just me. Bro comes out, but now knowing that it's a bulk up, it's a much scarier mon. Look at the rest of this team. Croak's not taking a hit from +1 Crook. It's not taking a hit from +0. Florg isn't going to beat it really either. Because, well, the Crook's Terra'd, and you're probably Synthesis last, so you're not going to have, like, Terra Blast Ground or anything. Pert, if this gets too many boosts, I mean, even with one boost, you probably don't even KO it anymore. And Talon, all it can really do is Wisp and hope that something else on the team from there can manage it. So, Crocodile is still a very problematic Pokemon here for Django to deal with, and GXD very obviously has win chances. Remember, this was a 3-6 game, not 3-4. So, let's claw back. He does end up going for a greedy EQ here, and maybe this ended up being a little bit bad. It's hard to say from here. It does even out the Mon count, but letting Crook get so low was really risky. And then here, Django from the top rope with Earthquake Toxicroak. Something I have not seen on any Croak other than Choice Scarf. And that was in Gen 8. Ends up being incredibly clutch there, getting rid of the Crocodile. Moonblast, no para, takes down Talon, Django able to win. This was an insane game, and I do think it could have gone really bad for Django had this Crocodile not bulked. And instead, maybe, like, if you just quaked and got a crit, I think it might have been over, and GXC would have just survived the onslaught. Fortunately for him, he just hit him with a Q, and the Crook I mean, again, I believe that GXC was predicting a sucker punch come out there. Just be like, okay, well, he's gonna be like sword stance, dual stab sucker, so I bulk here. Even if they Terra Dark, I'm fine. You know, if they sword stance, I should live a hit at +1 anyway. Or he thinks, you know, maybe you can outplay a couple turns if you need. But not how it went. We get to this game. Danny versus Frank Josh. Shout out to Frank Josh, Cat PL teammate. Unfortunately, since I was helping the Vivillons in the playoffs, he was an enemy this week. An enemy of the people, might add. But in this matchup versus my wonderful friend Danny, Frank Josh loaded a very good matchup here. The zone's already, like, I've gone ad nauseum talked about this month. Incredible. Incredible. And it has a really good matchup here, too. The Bonnet is not AV. And Flygon is not really a check to zone for too long. It's a check because you can come in on the electric moves, but Flash Cannon once, and goodbye. So, Danny's going to already have to navigate really carefully around this Magma Zone, which is going to get plenty of turns to come in versus El Monkidori, potentially even on the Yancy, depending on, you know, how aggressive Zone wants to be. But the Dunsparce, perhaps a little bit, you know, you didn't really see him. His head's literally covered up by Rapier's big-ass body. But the Dunsparce is also pretty good here. Whether it's toxic or if it's just got another coverage move, it can put in quite a lot of work. When I was at preview, I was kind of expecting it to just be a toxic variant, because that's what you see a lot of right now. Boom Burst, Calm Mind, Roost Toxic. Because you look at the meta and you say, alright, most of the steel types really can't even do anything to me anyway, so I'm gonna Calm Mind up and beat them down. And then you have Toxic just to chip away at anything else, like, for example, the NC. It actually ends up being Earth Power, which in many ways is better, because you actually get to just pressure on this more directly. So, as we get into this game, Mienshao is led with versus El Monkidori. And like I said, immediately Zone can come out. Now, you may wonder why he didn't U-turn for Chip. Well, there's a Talonflame. He just didn't want to risk the, what's it called? Flame Body. And here we also see, very quickly, Bonnet is not AV. Would have taken even less, and it also wouldn't be able to synthesis here. Bull Switch comes out, though. This does get you go right back into Mienshao. You could try to play for a Stone Edge. He decides instead, hey, either Slowbro or T-Flame come out. Dedunny is ready, and Dedunny is here. Calm Mind up. And this is also pretty scary for Danny because he's offensive DNC, which means he's, you know, gonna have the rocks and Flygon. It means that his DNC takes this hit far worse. He doesn't have Body Press to threaten this with. And in here, I believe Danny was trying to catch this on a turn roosting. And so he was going to go out to Monkey and just force it out with the threat of Trick. Unfortunately, he does not do that. He gets Earth Powered again. And then the switch comes and he tricks the Slowbro, which tricking Slowbro is still good. But it's not really necessary this game because you got Bonnet, which does beat Slowbro 1v1. I've been told by Eternally that is how it works. You will win the sequence. Yeah, DNC back out. And I actually was wrong. It's just offensive rocks DNC, and then it's on banded Flygon. My bad. Slowbro, though, will come back out on Ripe. And Ripiri, you do always have to be careful with Mr. Slowbro, and you actually see Danny respected immediately here. Just in case there could be a Mega Horde coming. He goes Talonflame very smartly. Unfortunately, for Josh as well, the Talonflame is Flare Blitz. So, Danny's able to get a ton of damage, and potentially win a speed tie here. Get off all that Roost. So, he's in a pretty good spot after maybe a little bit of a blunder earlier on with the Monkidori turn. Ended up not costing him a ton. The rocks get defogged away, of course, because, you know, give Magnezone one more switch in. Or multiple more switches. As the Dun now will come out versus Talonflame. Imagine, too, he tries to U-turn and give it rattled. Yeah. Flygon comes out here, though. It's banded, so you know it can do a lot. And he's Terra Steel, so he's going to be able to take this Boom Burst pretty decently. This also means now you know one of these two is telegraphed to switch in. The NC is a very good bring. Unfortunately, he rolled Slowbro instead of the Talon. He's going to have to make another switch, but not a big deal because, again, you've got Brute Bonnet. This one is literally never worried. Seed Bombs very intelligently versus Mienshao, so you see Josh have to double on out just in case a Sucker Punch was coming. And very smart from Danny to bring out the DNC, predicting Talon to be the response there. Ends up not mattering that Rocks went away, because Dance is able to Earth Power and get rid of that zone. Zhao comes back out, just a double, looking for some Regenerator. And he also pulls a Dedun versus Talon angle. So if he wants, he can set up, he could Roost, he could do a lot here. ends up roosting, which just means that when he sets up later, it's going to be a lot easier, as the bro now is the response to gone. Now see the bro mirror, and you see body press slower. Not a very common thing at all, but it was okay in this meta if you wanted to like hit something like Terra Dark Toxicroak. And in this matchup specifically, it's actually kind of nice too, because you have it for Bubonic. So, kind of interesting. It also tells you though that this slow bro is probably not a booster set unless it's like Iron Defense. And yeah, very risky of this Dodun to stay in versus Monkey Dory and risk getting poisoned by the Toxic Chain. Ends up being fine though. He's able to stand and two-shot the flag on the Boom Burst. And this is where it starts getting a little risky for Mr. Nathaniel, as without Bandit gone, your breaking power is a lot more limited here, as Monkey's gonna keep spamming Sludge Wave. Literally never get a poison, by the way. They're never lucky, bro. Good trick here, just to get rid of the lefties. Unfortunately, the Rapiri did not try to set rocks, which I think is what Danny was hoping for. The Bonnet now comes in. Seed Bomb crit on Talon doesn't really matter. You always have the answer here, but Josh makes a very good play with the U, keeping up momentum, keeping his Dudunsparce continuously coming out, forcing Danny, who basically always discuss his deepest fears with this wonderful man. And Dodun's gonna easily be able to recover up. You can throw off a Boom Burst here now if you'd like. Take off the DNC. Instead, he decides Earth Power. And earlier that Boom Burst is because I kind of forgot it at Earth Power as I was talking. Lana comes in again. This time we actually see the Terra Poison come out. Just making sure Seed Bomb would do less if he had CC as well. It would mean that you didn't have to worry about that. As a Slowbro now comes out. Slowbro could have Psychic Noise to hit you with, or Psy Shock, but Frank Josh doesn't seem to really care, as a Slowbro begins boosting versus him. He believes, you know what? I'm better. And of course, the Dodun is going to be able to two-shot Slowbro with this Boom Burst. That is all she wrote. There is no other counterplay here for Danny. He even crunches just to make sure that the Dunsparce has a couple more little stat changes under here. Now he's got a defense drop and a speed boost. That's pretty cool. And Talonflame will not be able to win this game, of course, because there's a whole Rhyperior. And of course, this lived anyway, so. Well done by Frank Josh. Now we get into this game, and this is one of the most exotic offenses I have ever seen out of Taka. I mean, God, you got the Cacturn just because in case you think Toother might bring some Slowbro balance. And then you just have a ton of fast mons. Like, you got Raikou, potentially Scarf Monkey. I don't really remember if the set's ever revealed. And then a Talon with Rock's Crook. And what ends up being Banded Water Tauros. And this Banded Water Tauros is a problem for Toother for two reasons. One, close combat just clears this team. Thundurus and Toxicroak are not bulky. So they're not going to be able to actually switch into that attack more than once. And Toxicroak doesn't even count as switching into it because you're slower. This would just CC you twice and you die. Second reason, there's actually a decent amount of opportunity for this mod to switch in. Like, you can switch in on Croak if you need, you can switch in on Lycan, you can kind of switch in on Croak, you can kind of switch in on Gator. Like, with Intimidate, this mod's going to soft check a lot of Toother's team, so it's going to be pretty problematic. Now, is there a way for Toother to win? I mean, yeah. Thundurus is pretty good here. The only true answer to Thundurus on this team is like Raikou. And if Thundurus gets a plot, Raikou's not really doing anything back. And Thundurus' speed tier, again, it's not like it's not touched, but again, Raikou, you should win the 1v1. Talon, you definitely do. It also depends on if it's Flare Blitz or Brave Bird. Monkey Dory, if you're Terra Steel, which most Thundurus are, you don't really care about this, because if it goes for, you know, either stab attack, you just won't get Revenge Code anymore. It does have a pretty good angle, and then Aqua Jet from Tauros needs pretty significant chip to KO you, same with like a Sucker Punch from Cacturn. So, again, in this game, Helm equals Delinquent is led with versus the Monkey. A very good lead for the Tooth. He does switch here, though, just, I suppose, not wanting to let Croak take extra chip early. And unfortunately, this ends up being a very bad play, because the Water Tauros is in, and it isn't now. He's also basically calling Toother's bluff on this even being potentially Scarf. Now, it's HO, so you would never expect it, but, you know, just in case. The Evolved Diesel comes in, potentially thinking a Wave Crash could come out here, which I think is fair, just in case you're worried about the third of Terra Ghost Meloetta, which is something we've seen in the past in Inu. CC, though, instead is used, and, yeah, as we see here, what I was talking about earlier, Water Tauros takes it just fine from Croak, way too much chip from CC. So now the dog comes out. You do switch here. I'm a little surprised Monkey was a switch in, because 2-3 even said this after. He's spammed Sucker Punch Lycan a ton. And yeah, so this Monkey Dory did not trick here, did not hard switch, he's Psychic. So very disrespectful play on attacker that ends up working. Crook does come in on the Psychic though, and we see a double back to the Lycan Rock. Unfortunately for Toother, he does not respect the threat of Aqua Jet at all. Ends up costing him his Lycan Rock there. I do think he probably could have switched into Gator. I also think Toother might be viewing for Alligator as a potential con at this point. Or maybe he just didn't want to... I don't know, maybe he didn't want to risk a CC. At the same time, though, I think you probably always go Gator. Good read here from Toother, though, knowing one of the grounds would come out, or one of the darks, I mean. Be able to pop that with a focus. Is Monkey comes back out, Sludge Waves, the Meloetta does get a Toxic Poison. Now, one thing you could ask, or question here maybe, is whether the Thunder should have Terra'd there. There's a couple turns where you could maybe argue it. I'm not sure if Terraing that early would have been worth it. Because Meloetta, here's the thing, right? So, Meloetta comes in on the Sludge Wave here. We see 41 and then a Poison. I believe what Toother said actually is that Meloetta should have avoided getting 2-shot without the Poison. I think maybe that Sludge Wave was like a higher roll. So, I believe that's why he didn't want to Terra that turn. So I believe it's fair. If he's under the impression he could just go Meloetta, avoid a 2-shot and KO Monkey, fair play. Also, this double Toxic Chain Poison, incredible. I've never gotten this luck. Kirk comes out, though, also gets poisoned, but in return for getting 2 poisons on these guys, he does crit the Talon. That is pretty huge, just because it's, again, something faster than his entire team. Could have threatened revenge killing various things. Wave Crash now from the Tauros. Thunders can always be a response here. You could Thunderbolt, you could Focus Blast. He does end up actually Psychics, but he does predict the Raikou switching. Very, very good from him. And he's going to be able to beat down the Raikou with 2 Psychics and a Focus Blast. Now here, I believe, is actually a bit of a misplay, and mostly because here's the thing. You've got 3 Mons. Crocodile is still moderately useful, but for the opposing Crook, even if you just need to use it as a sack to water Tauros. You can Terra Steel here. If he Psychics as you Thunderbolt, I believe you're safe because you can always then bring out this. It's at least a 50-50 that Taka has to deal with. Because Thunderbolt will not kill this from this range. And that's assuming he Psychics. If he Sludge Waves, you're literally just in a great spot, because then you can Focus Blast. If he goes Crook, you'll kill it. If he goes this, I mean, you 2-shot it anyway. Maybe it even dies from 69%. Tauros doesn't really have that good a special bulk. And even if you're worried about Aqua Jet afterwards, if he lives, you've got Gator. If he Jets, you just boost and you win. It ends up being agility, but it's actually like better this game if you then have Focus Blast up on that. Again, let's say like Crook is the sack. Well, I think you just always win at that point, because Monkey would have to try to come out and revenge kill you, but can't do that with anything other than Terra Blast Ground, which I believe would still just seed setup to Gator. Although, yeah, that could be a little risky versus like Tauros late game, I suppose. Regardless, the key thing here is this: by not Terastallizing, he ends up having to go Crook on a Sludge Wave. This ends up causing it to die, of course, over 2 turns. And now he goes back to Thundurus and chooses to Terra here. And if had he Terra'd on this turn up here, he'd be working with another sack. So you could Focus Blast here, and I did say I think you had to focus here, but I believe it wouldn't have actually changed a lot in the grand scheme. But say the same sequence plays out, where he T-Bolts Monkey and then this comes out on another T-Bolt, Terra, Dragons, and KOs with Thunders. You would have at least had another sack to work with, and while I don't know if it would have actually won you the game, it may have opened up some possibilities to do something. I think at the end of the day, losing Thunders where he did was the worst part. I think the Focus Blast misread by T-Bolting instead of Focus Blasting was probably more detrimental. But I believe at the end of the day, also not Terraing earlier on 16 instead of 18, it's pretty brutal. Now, last game of the NUPL finals. Unless I do past gens coverage, which you never know. Last game of our Scarlet and Violet NU coverage, we've got Floss versus ZS. ZS here trying to have a positive record in a team tournament for once, loading up a very ZS team. It's a little weirdly slow, and then it has a Pokemon that I probably shouldn't be seeing in NU right now. In this case, it's Flamigo. Whereas Floss is also loaded up a Bronzong. You also see a Rhyperior here, so the chances of this being the Demon Bronzong are quite high. Toxicroak's here as well. There's Doodoo Noivern. Literally, I have no clue how this mon rose to RE still. I am baffled. They have Salamence. There's Cyclizar and Salads. I get it. Part of the reason it's good is because it's faster than Cyclizar. But dude, this mon sucks. Surely RU players will realize that, right? This mon is just not good. Anyhow, he's got lots of pretty good matchups as well. Like that Florgus is what I would be worried the most about if I am ZS. Like the Bronzong ends up being something I think you can navigate okay enough earlier in the game. Because if it's set up Bronzong, well, ZS, one of the favorite things of his is Roar Sylveon. So set up Bronzong doesn't run a steel move, so you're going to be fine. You literally do not care about a +2 stored power. It will never do any damage to Sylve, so you can always maintain a decent spot versus that. It's the Florg that maybe gets a little bit trickier. Now again, Roar Sylveon will still check it. It's just at a point you wonder, maybe Sylveon can get overloaded, maybe it gets like a bad Roar versus either of these, and maybe Croak can slowly make some progress, or even Rhyperior gets too many turns in. It's definitely a game where managing the bulky setup can be rough depending on what mons get dragged out. So as we play this game, Reuniclus is led with versus the Noivern. Obviously here, you do not care about Noivern because it's not going to do anything to you. You're Assault Vest Reuni. So ZS is able to just knock the boots. Look for a little bit of chip here. There's a Future Sight. Nothing too extreme. A Sylveon now is the response here. You could throw off a Wish. You could Moonblast. You've got plenty of options. He actually ends up roaring. And Noivern comes right back out, takes a huge Future Sight. You'd love to see it. And this Noivern's at 15%. That'll be important to remember later on. Just remember. So Florgus comes out, no items shown, so Protect's always a good play. Just to make sure, if it's Trick, you can get Tricked whatever you'd rather. Get Tricked, Migo comes out, and Floss actually ends up letting Migo CC here, which is a little unfortunate because he then tries to Q. I'm thinking he just expected CC not to happen because, well, the Stone Edges, your Flamigo dies. If he keeps predicting Pert, unfortunately just ends up getting killed. But it happens. So now we see Mr. Bramble come out, hits him with a huge whip, and in here it's very interesting because ZS did not need to do this. He ends up Shadow Sneaking. This would not have killed. It was at it's at what, 21? Shadow Sneak is a third the strength of Power Whip, meaning would have done about 18-ish. Maybe there's a roll, like a very high roll for Shadow Sneak, yeah, but it would not have. So he was looking just to chip this down as low as he could have and then go like Sylveon after. Because Floss, though, goes Rhyperior, probably expecting the Sylveon to come out on the Moonblast. Or Reuniclus. Probably Reuni. It actually gives ZS a pretty good position because now he gets that tiny little twiddly dig damage on this, which you don't really care about, but he also gets a little extra spike. And then he, gets start hitting the Croak. Now, I did remember seeing this talked about in the NU chat. I'm sorry I have to name reference you. Toxicroak boosted +4 here, and I think a couple people also have said that this next turn is a throw by Floss. He gets hit by another whip, and instead of suckering there, he boosted again. And people questioned why he did this. Well, I saw people say that this didn't need to boost more. It did. It did. This doesn't kill Flamigo at +4, even with Terra Darksucker. And again, maybe my calc's wrong. I calced Adamant, Lefty's Croak. I saw this live, and I saw Dragalge live. I calced physically defensive Dragalge because I know ZS loves this Dragalge. And there's a Rhyperior turn later on that definitely indicates a physical bulk invested drag. So I'm positive this actually did need to set up to +6. The problem is, in doing so, the Bramble just killed you anyway. So maybe the better play at the end of the day was still to kill the Bramble instead of trying to boost all this much. But the notion that he you know, didn't need +6 to sweep, and that he could have gotten +4 and then just swept from there, I do believe is incorrect. But it's okay, because then ZS makes the most inexplicable play ever, and he just doesn't Shadow Sneak the Noivern. I don't know what happened here. It's not like there's a double switch here that you need to be scared of. Did ZS think Shadow Sneak didn't work on itemless Pokemon? I don't know. Part of me wants to ask him. He probably's answered this, by the way, already, and I just didn't see the answer. But I remember seeing that mid-battle and be like, wait, why the hell did you Shadow Sneak ZS? No! I thought it was such a weird play. I don't know. Regardless, Reuniclus is back out. Noivern's at full. All the spikes are gone. My day's been ruined. Florgus comes out here and fall. I keep hitting everything on my desk. I'm so sorry, y'all. Florgus passes a wish, and this is what I was talking about, by the way, with knowing this is physically defensive triviality. Why am I taking 84 from a Rhyperior? Anyhow, the wish gets passed to nothing, because Drake just killed. And he sacks the drag because it no longer matters. Now able to go Bramble. Hit this Milotic with a whip. Psych, the Noivern switched in. Guess what? If he had killed this with Shadow Sneak earlier, it wouldn't have happened. Anyhow, Milotic comes back out. Reuniclus is back out now. You can throw off a Future Sight again. Obviously, this spawn's not really ever doing anything to you. The burn's kind of annoying, but long term, it's going to be pretty inconsequential. No biggie. Because the Sylveon now can come out, throw up a wish, pass it, you know, to itself, to Reuni. It really doesn't matter here. As Future Sight hits this Noivern once again, and by the way, Milotic, though, is going to be sent in. And Bramble actually ends up getting past this wish here, which I find very devious. But it worked out. Power Whip smoked that. And see, this turn ZS did Shadow Sneak, so once again, I just have to wonder why he did not earlier. It must have been he forgot he had Shadow Sneak out of nowhere. After just killing a Croak with it, he forgot he was allowed to use it again. He was not tormented. Love you, ZS. Now, you may think this game is very easy for ZS to win. He's got 5 Pokemon. There's just one Bronzong. How bad could it go? Well, recall that part of the counterplay I mentioned earlier was phasing. You can't it's not like it's a wild Pokemon. You can't roar it out of the battle and say, oh, sorry, Floss, you lose. I scared your Bronzong off it. I released it for you. And this is a Poltergeist, so you're not going to be, like, smoking this with heavy damage. So Reuniclus has to come out, and that gives it a turn to boost. And then Reuniclus has to go for, like, a knockoff here, so it gives it another turn to boost. Because you're trying to make sure you can neuter it and prevent it from sitting around in your face for 27 turns and just beating you down. Problem is, Reuniclus does not have offensive investments. You do nothing at all with Shadow Ball. And like, yeah, you are weakening it. The problem is this is boosting and boosting and boosting. Now, I believe he probably should have Terra'd at some point here. He ends up being Terra Dragon, and I do think burning that earlier on would have been pretty good. But I also think the reason he didn't is he needed to make sure Sylveon Moonblast would not be able to, like, beat him down. Or he wanted to make sure he had enough boost to guarantee KO Sylveon. Regardless, it gets switched in and dies to stored power. And now we see the Terra burned. And, you know, I thought maybe Floss had found a way to win. Because you look at ZS's team, there's really nothing that could deal with this. I mean, it just Bronzong is winning, and Pert comes out. Pert's got a little trick up its sleeve. Terra Dark, and it has Ice Punch. It's able to be immune to that stored power, and then over 2 turns get a bit of chip. A little bit of chip. And that chip ends up being just enough overall for the Migo CC at the end to finish it off. Now, maybe, I'm gonna be honest, maybe it didn't matter that he got 2 Ice Punches. There's a chance that just 1 would have been enough. And then Migo CC into, like, Reuni Shadow Ball could have killed still. But, hey, I think it's a lot cooler of an ending for the Pert to stunt with the Terra Dark. I hope y'all enjoyed. NUPL was really fun. Unfortunate that my team did not have a good performance, but that's kind of just par for the course of being these team tours at this point. I'm just glad I got to pass par for ADV, the team he was able to win with, and I was able to help Django test, and he ended up loading up a really cool team that got him a win. So, I'm at least satisfied that I was able to help support the winners at the end. I enjoyed it. It was a good atmosphere. Shiloh, you drafted a good team eternally. Try not to lose to... I don't know. Try not to lose to players again, okay? Catch y'all next time, though. Peace.